host training, and I'm here with Riker. We're going to give you his final training demonstration. So basically the training program can be broken down into 5 main components. There's socialization, house training, manners, obedience, commands, and leash training. And the bulk of what I'm going to be showing you here today is going to be the obedience, commands, and the manners. And we'll go ahead and start with the manners. So some of the manners are placed on command, but many of them are not. A lot of them are just behaviors that he's been taught. For example, I don't want him to jump on me. I want him to stay on all fours when he's around me. Also, I want him to sit automatically for a greeting. Basically, it's a default behavior when he doesn't know what else to do, or when he approaches me and makes eye contact with me. Good boy. I just want him to sit, and that does a couple of things. Number one, it gets them planted so that they're not moving all around. And then also another thing it does for us is when his butt goes down, his eyes come up and he's ready to look at you and see what you want. You can give him direction from there. Also another thing it does is, like with children and stuff, where they're on their level, it's much harder for them to lick their faces and get all over them if they're sitting. So if he doesn't sit automatically every time, he may still need some verbal reminders. Just go ahead and keep up with that and ask for a sit every time he approaches you so that he stays up with that habit. Good boy. That's a good puppy, huh? So another one of his manners is when taking things from our hands, or just when he's playing in general, he's expected to be very gentle with his mouth and to use his lips and his tongue to take things from us and not be grabby with his teeth. And so initially we had to work on that with Riker quite a bit, and we want him to be responsive to our verbal cues. So gently is the cue to give him, to remind him to be gentle with his mouth. So if he does get grabby with his mouth, or if he gets excited, you have something really yummy in your hands, and he tries using his teeth, just hold on to it and say gently, gently, and he'll be very soft at taking that from your hands. Another one of his manners are his mealtime manners. Whenever you feed him, don't just let him eat or he'll learn to jump all over you and try to get the food. Ask for a sit stay and make him wait for your verbal release before he's allowed to eat. Stay. Huh? Stay. No. Sit. Stay. Okay. Good boy. And you'll probably notice that I use quite a bit of voice fluctuation with my voice. And dogs respond to this really, really well because they don't actually use words with one another. They rely solely on body language. You're a noisy buddy. There, good job. Did you clean all that up? They rely on body language and fluctuation on how you say things. And so they're going to pay a lot more attention to that than the actual words that you say. So if you'll notice, when I want him to control himself and to kind of stay put, I use kind of a commanding, authoritative tone of voice. You know, when I say stay. And then when I want movement and I want action and animation out of him, then I use a higher, more of a chipper tone of voice, and I say, okay, like with his releases and things. Good boy. Yeah. So make sure you take advantage of that. A point I wanted to make here with feeding him for his meals, there's an acronym that I use to help me remember just 5 natural times during the day that we interact with our dogs that you can get obedience. And that's all good toys, or all good dogs fetch toys. And that stands for attention, gates and doorways, food, and toys. And these are 5 things that most people naturally give their dogs several times a day anyway. So make good use of them. Use them for obedience. They're always usually really motivated and really focused when you're giving those things. So make sure you don't just give handouts all the time. Ask for a sit, ask for a stay, ask for a down before you allow them to go through a door, before you allow them to eat their food, before you give them their toy. Some people struggle with that a little bit because they feel like maybe it's a little bit too militaristic or controlling, I guess. But dogs have a pack mentality, and they really thrive off knowing who's in charge. And in a natural pack, the pack leader controls the resources. They control when you eat. They control where you go, who you are not allowed to be with, and where you are not allowed to go. And so that, them knowing that you are the pack leader really gives them a lot of security, and it will really contribute to their bond to you. So go ahead and make good use of those times, and have them check in with you and get permission to go through a door and get permission to eat and get permission to play and to get your love and affection, and pet him on their head and stuff, and he'll really like that, and that'll help him to establish in his mind that you're the leader. So it'll help with his obedience too. With his manners, he's also been taught doorway manners, which means he's expected to hold a stay before getting that verbal release again and being allowed to go through. And I don't care what position he's in, I don't care if he's sitting, standing, lying down, dancing around, wherever, he's not allowed to go through that door until you give the okay, the release. Let's go. Stay. Stay. Okay. Good boy. Okay, stay. Okay. Good boy. This is a really good habit to keep up with too. While they're so small, you don't think much of it, but he's going to grow to be a very large dog. And if he gets in the habit of bolting past you to get out the door, that can become dangerous. So you want to make sure that you always ask him to stay before you go through a doorway first and then release him to go. Good boy. And I expect this from not only my household doors, but from crate doors, from kennel gates, from going in and out of the yard, those kind of gates. He's always asked to hold a stay. So now I'll go ahead with his obedience commands. We're going to show you come, sit, stay, down, down, stay, crate, drop it, watch me, and go to bed. Come, sit. There's 3 hand signals that he's been taught. The first is a scoop up over the nose just like that. That's for a sit. And if it helps you to remember, that's how he was taught to sit, is we would lure his nose up until his hind end went down. So that's his first hand signal that he knows. Good boy. There, stay. The second hand signal is a stay. It's just a stop sign with your hand, just like that, stay. And you don't have to hold your hand up the entire time. Nope. Sit, stay. Okay, good boy. That's a good puppy. You can drop it down, but just make sure you continue to build on that stay. He's got probably a 20-25 second stay now, and he's pretty reliable with some distractions. But keep building on that. Don't be satisfied with that. Ask for a 30-second stay. Build up to a minute stay. Do it with distractions. Do it while he can't see you, and that's going to be one of your most handy commands to have. So the third hand signal is a down, and I've got a little treat tucked in here. I just make my hand flat and take it all the way to the floor and say down. Good boy. Stay. Okay. Good boy. That's a good puppy. And you'll notice that I do use food quite a bit. And for the first couple of years that I was training, I really struggled with that because I noticed that when I had food on me, sometimes they were really attentive, and sometimes when I didn't have food on me, they would ignore me, and I felt like they were getting treat spoiled, and I didn't want to have food on me all the time to get obedience, and so I really struggled with that. But what I found since taking dogs up through advanced obedience is that the more consistent you are at using a high value reward every time he obeys of some kind. And it's not always food. We don't always use food. You know, getting through a door, that's a reward in and of itself. A lot of times we just use attention. Like when he comes and does a sit for greeting, a lot of times I'll just give him attention and I'll acknowledge it. Good boy. He's very motivated by toys. Okay. So a lot of times we'll just use a toy as a reward. But the more consistent you are at using a high value reward for obedience every time, about within the first 8 months to a year of their life, the more easily you can transition out of it. And what you're doing is by making it worthwhile for them to be obedient every time, you're driving those behaviors into automatic behaviors. You're kind of pushing them into muscle memory to the point that it's worth it every single time, so that they don't have to think about it anymore. Almost to where when you give a command, their body will respond before their mind even has a chance to think about it. And to give you an example of this, my personal dog, he's about 5 now, maybe 6. He's about 6 now. And I give him a food reward maybe once a week anymore. So I'm not relying on that food reward because he just knows this is what we do. And he does it the first time every single time. So what I've found too is that if you become inconsistent or very predictable about when you are and are not going to make obedience worthwhile, then they do learn to think about it every time. Every time you give a command, they'll think, is it going to be worth it this time or not? And they'll make a decision. And so they do kind of develop that on and off switch. So I really recommend that until these behaviors become automatic behaviors, that you reward heavily. And it can be an inconvenience, making sure you have treats and toys around and handy all the time. But it's a huge investment over the lifetime of your dog, because it's just that first year. If you can get him through that first year, then for the next 15 years, he's going to have solid obedience for you, and you're not going to rely on having to have a reward available for him every single time. Oh, this is part of his manners too. I was going to show you drop it. So make sure with drop it that you always expect him to release something on command and actively open his mouth and release it to you, so that you're not tempted to pull it out of his mouth, because that can teach bad habits. He'll try to grab on harder. He might catch a finger. He might try to play tug of war with you or rip something or whatever. Good boy. You beat me to the punch. Sit. Okay. Good boy. Drop it. Drop it. Good boy, that's good. So you want him to open his mouth and release it to you. Okay, so we've done come, sit, stay, down, down, stay. I'm going to show you how he crates on command. Crate. Crate. Okay. Good boy. So a lot of time and a lot of care has gone into teaching him to relax and enjoy his crate. And this can be one of your most handy tools, so make sure you take advantage of that training that he's had. If you need to leave the house for a couple of hours, if you need to go take a shower or whatever, you can't have your eyes on him but you want him in the house, go ahead and pop him in his crate. It's a no-brainer. He enjoys it. Usually when we put him in there, we do give them a bone, a nyla bone, or a rawhide or something to chew on so that they can just relax and enjoy it. And we've really focused on making this a very positive experience for him to be in his crate. So he has learned to be calm and quiet in the crate for up to 2 to 3 hours during the day, and for a full 8 to 9 hours at night without needing a potty break. You want to get out? And then, like I mentioned before, make sure you always ask for a stay before releasing him from his crate. Don't let him just bust out of his crate. Stay. Stay. Okay. Good boy. Yeah. Okay, so the final command, watch me. Watch me. Good boy. This is a foundational command, which means we've been teaching it from day one, and it can be a life-saving command. So you want to make sure that you continue practicing this one several times a day and always, watch me, always give a high value reward for him following through. What you're looking for is his eye contact. You don't want anything else. You just want him to break his focus on whatever it is he's looking at. Good boy. Watch me. Good boy. And look at you. Focus on you. The way dogs are designed psychologically is they're not, good boy, they're not natural multitaskers. They're not like us. We can be looking at one thing or carrying on a conversation and thinking about something totally different at the same time. They're not capable of doing that. So whatever they're looking at is 100% where their attention is, even if it's just for a split second, which often it is. So if you can get their eyes, you have them for that second. Then you can follow up with a come or a sit or whatever else you want to do. But it gives you the power to distract him from a distraction. And this could be, you know, if he's headed out into traffic, if he's running out after a cat, if you drop food on the floor and he's headed after it, just use that, watch me. Okay, good boy. Use that command and get his attention. Good boy. And you can distract him from essentially anything. Yeah, it's a good puppy. So the final two things are house training and leash training. He's been taught to go and touch a bell that's hanging on the door to let us know when he needs to go outside and go potty. And he'll touch it with his nose. He'll ring it with his nose. So he knows where the bell is here at our house. You want to go ahead and just show that? He knows where it is here. He's going to need to relearn where it is at your house. And so the way to do that is to hang a bell on the door that you're going to be using most often to take him outside. And then when he's not looking, rub something yummy on it, like some peanut butter or some grease or something like that that'll catch his attention. And when he goes to touch it, to smell that smell, make sure you're ready to say, okay, good boy, you want to go outside? Did you hear me, huh? And I really emphasize that outside word. Let's go outside. You want to go outside? And then take him on a leash. And it helps if you designate a specific area in your yard to be the toilet area. Take him on the leash to that spot and completely ignore everything that he does until he goes potty. That way you're not walking around and around waiting for him to finish his business. Good boy. And then as soon as he does go to the bathroom, then you can give him all the attention and the rewards that you have. Say, yes, get outside, and give him his reward. He's done really well with his house training. You may have noticed in the training notes that he had an accident the other day. That's really common with the cold weather. We're going through a cold snap right now. Good boy. And so if you're going through a cold snap too, that's something to be aware of. You know, they're not going to volunteer to go outside if it's uncomfortable being outside. So make sure that you just make a point that every hour or half hour or whatever you decide, you take him on his leash out to his potty area until you establish a routine in your house. And the routine will really, really help. If you can just spend a couple days getting that routine down, that'll help him understand what he can count on from you. It'll help you understand what to expect from him. It just takes a couple days to get into that routine. Good boy. But yeah, you can expect him to communicate to you that he needs to go outside, and you can expect him to hold it until you give him an opportunity to go outside, as long as you give him regular opportunities. So for the leash training, we do something called attention walking. Drop it. Drop it. Okay, good boy. And with attention walking, there's two kind of walks that we do with the puppies. If we need to get from point A to point B, we use like a 4 or 5 foot leash like this. And if we go out for a walk that's for his pleasure, where he can go out and sniff and chase and run or whatever, we'll either take him where it's safe to be off leash, like a park or the foothills out here, or we'll take him on a long leash, like a 10 or 15 foot leash. So when he's on a short leash like this, and we need to get from point A to point B, I don't care what side he's on. I don't care if he's on my left side or my right side. I just want him to maintain this J shape in the leash. I want him to maintain slack, and I want him to pay attention to me, to stop and sit when I stop, and to change directions when I change directions, and I want him to be responsive to my verbal cues. So there's two commands that I use when I'm leash walking on a short leash like this. When we want him to go, you got an itch there, we say, let's go, let's go. Okay, and you'll notice, okay, anytime he looks up at me or makes eye contact with me while we're walking, okay, I acknowledge it and I reward it, and that makes me the most entertaining and engaging thing on our walk, so he's not focused on the birds and the squirrels and the wind and everything else that's really exciting out there. He's focused on me, and he's staying with me and paying attention and changing directions when I change directions, and then when I stop, I want him to sit. So if he doesn't do it automatically, go ahead and ask for it. Good boy. That's a good boy. And then if he does pull ahead, I have a sweet spot there, huh? Okay, let's go. If he does pull ahead, I stop and I say easy until he puts slack back in the leash. And it's really important that if you're saying easy that you're completely stopped. I see a lot of times people will pull and say easy, easy, easy while they're walking. And dogs have a reflex in their neck and their chest that when they feel pressure there, they want to push against it. So all that's doing is teaching him to push against you. And it's rewarding him for pushing through you. So make sure you completely stop and you're not making any forward progress, easy, until he's put that slack in the leash. And if you need to, change directions. You know, if he's just pulling, 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 change directions, go the other way, change directions again, again and again and again until he gets the picture that he needs to stay with you, and put slack in the leash. And of course, make yourself really rewarding, like always. Just keep something in your pocket, something tasty, or keep a toy on you, so that you can reward him for paying attention and staying with you. So, yeah, I think that wraps it up for Riker's demonstration. He's done really, really well. We think you're going to love him. He's a lot of fun. He's got a lot of play drive, so make sure you stock up on your toys and your things, and are prepared to take him out for regular walks and play and in the park and stuff. And he's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks.